Hey, okay, I think we are up and running on YouTube finally. Okay, it is 2:01 and we want to say thank you all and welcome to this live and lively discussion around what we are going to do this coming semester. I'm going to take a moment to first of all say thank you to you all for participating in this session. This is building a film and television production protocol for higher education. My name is Teresa Dowell-Vest. I'm the director of film and television production at Prairie View A&M University. Um, and let's see, we're going to make this speaker view here. I think Mickey Turner is our featured speaker on this suddenly. There we go. And yes, long and short of this, so we can get right into the meat and potatoes of our conversation, is the fact that we are still enduring a pandemic here in the United States. It is incredibly dire. The situation that we're in, and it's impacting all sectors of life as we've seen since March, right? In the spring, we as educators have collectively had to rethink how we teach our classes and instantly adjust how we're going to manage our semester and our courses. And so that said, we had to go offline and go online and, work from our homes and Zoom and all these things. And there are a lot of people and a lot of programs that were just kind of caught off guard by this. As we run towards the fall semester, I think we're planning for a mix of experiences, whether it's continued hybrid or it's continued online, or people are trying to figure out what's the best and safest way to even do face-to-face. For a lot of programs, for some programs, maybe this is not an issue, right? It's more research oriented, it's more individualistic in terms of how you create the work and arrive at particular outcomes. But for film, television, theater, dance, the arts in general, it's a collaborative experience. And if you do not have access to other people, if you do not have access to the experience of engaging with other people, you're falling short in that experience. And part of our job as educators in the arts is to not just teach the students how to do a thing with a camera or a set of lights or a microphone, but also how to communicate with one another, how to forge relationships and build community around creating art. And it takes being in each other's presence and working together. But then what do you do when you're in the middle of a global pandemic and things like the importance of wearing a mask and the importance of constantly keeping your hands and your environments clean, your bodies clean, your clothing clean? And certainly one would probably say, well, shouldn't we be doing that already? Like, are we a bunch of dirty people walking around, But I think, what we're taking for granted with COVID-19 and perhaps just kind of hygienes in general is that germs are everywhere and they're on everything. And so as filmmakers and as teachers and as people who work in a collaborative art, these are things we need to take into consideration. So how did we get to this session? With this particular session, we are here because, we are here because I couldn't come up with an answer. I could not come up with an answer. I was asked the question, what do we do? And we went around the room and, we checked in with each other and none of us had an answer to how do we handle if some of the students come back to Prairie View and others stay wherever they are. What's the answer? how do we give a fulfilling experience to all of our students, however they show up? So not expecting the answer necessarily. But what we can expect today is forging relationships, meeting each other where we are, and seeing if we can borrow from each other, we can learn from each other, and hopefully build from today. What I want to do is take just a couple of minutes, and just, I know there's a lot of people in this space, but give you all an opportunity to round robin and introduce yourself. Just my name is, and I teach at this particular program, or this is my title at such and such a school. And I think there are just enough of us where we can make that happen. So take it away, just bang it out.
I guess
my name is Ed.
Oh,
I'll go ahead.
okay.
At the top, I'm sorry. My name is Ed Moy, and I'm the interim television studio manager at North Carolina A&T State University, and I'm also the production and technology coordinator.
Hi, I'm Mickey Turner. I'm an assistant professor of professional practice at the Annenberg School at USC.
I'm Dan Beard. I'm a full-time lecturer at Baylor University and also the department's production supervisor.
Hi, I'm Susan Cardillo. Oh, sorry, Kristen. I think I cut you off.
Go ahead.
I'm Susan Cardillo, assistant professor of digital media and journalism at the University of Hartford. Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Thompson. I direct the film program at Seattle University.
Well, my name is Dwayne Cheddar, and I'm the program director for the film and television program at Oakwood University, Alabama.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Thomas. I'm the journalism sequence coordinator and associate professor, Department of Media Journalism and Film at Howard University.
I'm Tony Adan. I'm instructor in film studies at Minnesota State University, Moorhead.
I'm Brett Chambers. I'm full-time lecturer in mass communications, mostly mass comm and journalism, entrepreneurship, and video production.
I'm Susan Dugan. I'm at Benedict College. I teach photography, 34 years.
I'll go, I guess. I'm Lauren Cater. I'm an assistant professor of film production at Middle Georgia State University in Macon, Georgia.
My name is Brittany Fleming. I'm an assistant professor at Slippery Rock University in Slippery Rock, PA.
My name is Professor Josh Ellis. I'm in Miami-Dade College. I teach film production and cinematography.
My name is Kara Fries. I'm the chair and associate professor at Point Park University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Hi, my name is Rania Al-Malki. I taught media arts at the University of North Texas, specifically documentary.
Alex Johnston. I'm assistant professor of film. I teach film production and media production at Seattle University.
Hi, I'm Felicia Casey Hicks. I'm the TV studio manager at North Carolina Central University.
Rick Wolf, I'm associate professor of communication at Valparaiso University in Indiana.
I'm Daniel Marcus. I'm professor and director of communication and media studies at Goucher College in Baltimore.
I'm Nat Bowman. I'm an associate professor of media studies at SUNY Oneonta.
I'm Katie Grant. I'm a lecturer in film production at Penn State.
Hi, I'm Lindsay.
I'm Sam.
And I am assistant professor of production at Ohio University.
Hi, I'm Sam Davis-Boyd. I'm assistant professor of media and communication, specializing in film and video production at Castleton University in Vermont.
Hi.
Hey everybody, Stephen Barden here from Sheridan College in Oakville. I teach
sound and sound design, and I'm also the program coordinator for the undergraduate film degree program at Sheridan. And might I say that you are all being perfectly Canadian in not speaking over top of one another during these introductions. That is amazing. Well done, everybody.
Hi, I'm Stacy Shoulder. I'm full-time faculty at USC Annenberg School of Journalism, and I oversee our video and television news production.
Hi, my name is Heidi Whitus, and I may be the only high school teacher here. I am the director of the cinema program at Northeast School of the Arts in San Antonio, and I also teach audio production at San Antonio College.
Well, I'm going to follow you up because I'm also a high school teacher. My name is Gail DeClark. I teach video production at Franklin High School in Franklin, Wisconsin, outside of Milwaukee. And I have about 150 to 170 kids a year, and I'm the only teacher. So I'm really hoping to grab some information from you guys to figure out how I'm going to do this. So thank you.
Go ahead, Eric.
I'm Eric Degini. I'm assistant professor at Occam State University.
Hi, I'm Ashley Craig. I'm the equipment and production manager at Boston College's Studio Art and Film Studies Department.
I'm Gabrielle McNally. I teach at Northern Michigan University. I'm an associate professor, and I run the digital cinema program in the School of Art and Design.
Is that everyone? I think that is very close. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Tony Clomax, assistant professor at Prairie View A&M University. I work with TDV, and I teach screenwriting, film production, and editing. And I'm happy to be here with everyone.
Hi, I'm Chase Carter. I work as a lecturer and TV studio assistant at North Carolina Central University.
Okay, I'm Don Abel. I'm at Amarillo College in Amarillo, Texas, and I teach video production.
Hey, I'm Cheryl Furjanik, and I'm the media production specialist and filmmaker in residence at New York University in the anthropology department, teaching documentary production.
Hey, I'm Ethan Crawford. I'm with the Media, Film, and Journalism Studies Department at the University of Denver. I work as the tech director, studio manager, equipment manager. Thanks for having me.
Okay, is that everyone? I think that, oh, no, go ahead. Yep.
I'm Mike Tierno. I'm an associate professor at East Carolina University. I teach film production, script writing, critical film analysis, and whatever they need me to teach. Thanks for inviting me.
Hi, of course.
Hi, I'm Fritz Gerald. I just completed 29 years as post-production supervisor at NYU and an adjunct instructor, and I'm starting fresh and anew at Howard University as an adjunct lecturer. And I'm glad to be here.
Good. Congratulations on your new post. Okay, I think that might round us out. I was hoping that we would be able to do that. And part of the reason why I wanted to have everyone introduce themselves is so that we can see very clearly that this brainstorming session is really about not only shaping our individual schools, but also how we can approach production education moving forward. I don't think any of us are actually going to be able to return to a previous way of doing things after this. And we certainly are not going to be able to go back to quote unquote normal for at least the next year or two. We can almost count on that. So some of the objectives for today, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a screen share so that we can see the slide presentation that I have for today. One of the objectives for today is to certainly look at what are our options moving forward. So let me pull this up for us here. Excellent. All right. Okay. And just making sure we can see the screen just fine there. Yeah. All right. Good. We'll make that large. Okay, so today what we want to do is, now that we've introduced everyone, we want to get to the objectives of our presentation today. What we definitely want to do is highlight some of the best practices available to us as we shift from a face-to-face construct to a virtual classroom for production courses. One of the tasks that we'll have today in our breakout session is to share best practices among the people within your particular group, and determine what are some of the borrowed practices we can identify from each of the main groups, and then we'll present that a little bit later on when we do our presentations. We want to identify instructional production activity for virtual classroom format. Before today's call, before we got into the session, many of my colleagues in this session shared with me some of the things that they did moving from face-to-face to virtual as a reaction to COVID in the late spring semester. During that time, none of us really had the benefit of long-term planning for that second half of that spring semester. So what were some of the things you did to kind of salvage your semester, but continue to be a fulfilling experience for our students and for ourselves? And so in the groups, we'll talk about some of the things that we had to do in reaction to that shift, and what are some of the things that, what are some of the practices that may stick to the wall and we can keep and continue to refine and make a part of our pedagogy. And then finally, we want to establish protocol for face-to-face, hybrid, and online production activity to ensure student, faculty, and staff safety. All right, so these are the main goals of our discussion today. And we're going to arrive at these goals through our breakout session. Our breakout session is called 9 Rooms. The reason why I framed it in such a way is because, with Zoom, it's easy to just kind of go breakout room number 1, breakout room number 2, and so forth and so on. But what I want to do today with these breakout sessions and with the respective rooms is just to be a space of inspiration, that each of you will inspire each other towards positive outcomes, and hopefully go back into your program with new ideas or innovative ways that you can go into the fall semester. Innovation, creativity, and imagination is what these women inspire from me. What they inspire out of me, and who I aspire to be as not only a creative, but also as an educator. All 9 of these women have taught me through their doing. They're professors of practice, if you will. And so I've named each of the breakout rooms after Cheryl Dunye, Ava DuVernay, Shonda Rhimes, Julie Dash, Lena Waithe, Casey Lemons, Issa Rae, Michaela Cole, and Gina Prince Bythewood. The reason I identified these rooms after these women is because they elevate me through their storytelling, through their presence in the industry. And teaching at an HBCU, it is so important that our students see themselves not only in front of the camera, but behind the camera and in the executive offices. So today we're going to be splitting up into 9 working spaces where each of the 9 rooms will have a different task. Across the board, all the rooms are really working towards one larger outcome for our respective programs. But each of the room will have just a tweak of a different task at hand. The Cheryl Dunye room will have 2 tasks. They will present 3 learning production activities suitable for face-to-face courses for freshman level students. So this is for the schools that are, that are going to take on the daunting task of having their students come back to campus. Let me start that again. because I don't want to get into judgy face. I just had judgmental face, and I don't want to get into that. If your school is calling for your students to come back, then this forum is going to rally around you and help provide you with the tools you need, or perhaps the suggestions you need, or the support you need to be able to do it and have some ideas to do it safely. So the Cheryl Dunye Room, you are to come up with 3 learning / production activities suitable for face-to-face courses for freshman level class. Then you will also present 3 safety standards to be incorporated into the production education safety protocol handbook that we're going to construct as a collective. The Ava DuVernay Room, you are doing a very similar task by identifying 3 learning or production activities for a hybrid course. A hybrid course meaning, for those who are watching who are just kind of, going, hey, I'm gonna watch something interesting. For those of us who work in a hybrid sort of world, it's where part of the course activity is face-to-face or somehow in person. And then another component of that class is virtual or online. Some of us will be doing some of that. Prairie View, we're looking at doing a lot of that ourselves. And so what we're looking for in that particular room, identify 3 learning / production activities suitable for hybrid classes at a first year or freshman level. And then you're also going to present 3 safety standards to be incorporated into the safety protocol handbook. And then the Shonda Rhimes Room, your group is to identify 3 learning or production activities suitable for online courses for first year or freshman level class. This is an important one, not to say that the rest aren't, but to identify activities, suitable for an online presence is crucial right now, because I'm willing to bet money I don't have that there are more and more schools that are going to say, we're going fully online before Labor Day. Maybe at this point, they're thinking we're going to have our students come back, or they're even thinking that they're going to be hybrid. But as things start to change and evolve, and as we can see from the news and from our communities, leaving your home may not be, and asking other people to leave their home might not be an option. So identifying projects or activity that can be done online, we're really looking for some quality, innovative options there. Okay. And then also 3 safety standards to incorporate into the handbook. Now, those safety standards, let me explain what I'm looking for with that. With that, what we like to do, and we're starting to see them trickle out online here and there. What I would love to do is for us to collaborate on building a handbook that we can all share and agree upon. And some of it, again, already exists. I know that there are different university and college organizations and associations that have something in place there. I know Tony, my colleague Tony, brought to the meeting, the Writers Guild has a set of protocols for professional production. What we're looking to do is put something together that's suitable for higher education. Yeah, the Writers Guild safety protocol book and SAG's safety protocol book, those are great resources, but it speaks to one element that we're all responsible for. We're responsible not only for the production piece, but for the student piece, for the character piece. Somebody's mama is sending their baby to us, even though they're adults, right? We know what this looks like. They're sending their children to us to learn. But with COVID, we have an extra responsibility at hand that we hadn't really prepared for or planned for prior to spring break, right? So this handbook needs to be a bridge of those things, what to do in the professional setting, but then also what character things we need to consider, what educational things we can infuse into that to inspire our students to not just do a thing because we said so. Wear a mask. They're hearing that ad nauseum. Then we're going to say that in the classroom and they're going to respond to that. Well, no, let's teach why that's important in a production environment, why it's important to now have these new steps and new provisions in a production environment. So this handbook can also become a textbook. Okay, the Julie Dash Room. We are going to look for 3 learning/production activities suitable for face-to-face courses for sophomore/junior level courses. And then with them, instead of focusing on the safety standards, we're going to ask this group to present 3 networking/career development opportunities that programs can offer or procure for their students during COVID-19. So things like film festivals are not as available as they used to be. What can we put in its place that will still give the students a fully realized networking opportunity, even in a virtual construct? The Lena Waithe Room. Present 3 learning/production activities suitable for hybrid courses for a sophomore, junior class. And same thing with the networking, career development opportunities. And then the Casey Lemons Room. Present 3 learning/production activities suitable for online courses at a sophomore, junior level. Their second task is to present 3 solutions for faculty to maintain course freshness in a hybrid/online format. One thing that I quickly realized in the spring, right when the trigger was pulled that we're going to an online format, was in the first week of my classes being in a Zoom format, I was bored. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't know if I could do this for the next 8 weeks or whatever was left of the semester. And I knew that if I was having a hard time, my students definitely weren't going to stick with it. And so this is where I want you to come up with solutions for faculty freshness. How do you maintain an interest in what you're doing when we're no longer able to go full-time face-to-face? The Issa Rae Room, you're also addressing faculty freshness, but you're going to also select 3 learning/production activities face-to-face, senior or capstone level. The Michaela Cole Room, same thing, 3 production activities for a hybrid or for senior capstone level. Your second task, identify 3 solutions for equipment management for students when moving from face-to-face to virtual. One of our biggest challenges at Prairie View is that we won a grant where we bought this great equipment, all the bells and whistles and the things. And then COVID happens and these babies are in Atlanta and in Dallas and all these places, and they don't have access to that equipment. And then the people who are here, I mean, how do we manage sharing gear with them? So what I want you to explore in that second part of your question is, what are some of the solutions around equipment? Do we put together packages for students to purchase and they have their own gear, especially if we're still learning from a virtual perspective? And then finally, the Gina Price Bythewood Room, same thing, looking at equipment, but also present 3 learning production activities suitable online for our seniors and capstone students. Whew. That was a lot and it was a mouthful, but we're going to go ahead and put everyone into their respective rooms because I think, we're going to take this time, about 30 minutes to get to work. And while everyone's getting to work there, I'm going to entertain some questions from the people who are watching remotely. I'm going to stop the share, come back to the group. And then we're going to come back together. I want each group to also identify a spokesperson who will be able to present during the presentation phase. All right. So we're going to go ahead and split you into your groups, and then I'm going to hit all the individual groups to check to make sure you're fine and you don't have any questions. Okay. So.
This is happening automatically.
I was hoping that it was happening automatically. I hit breakout room and it just asked me to assign everyone, but let me see.
You should have a random function to do that.
Let's see, there we go. We're going to just recreate all the rooms. There we go. and open all rooms. There we are. Huzzah. Look at everyone's kind of disappearing and dissipating. This is magical. Cool. Look at Zoom being pretty awesome. Okay, so I think I'm in the first room. I'm in the Cheryl Dunye room. And I'm actually going to leave the room so that you guys can get started. And I'm going to come back in just a second. Whew. Okay, someone said I was looking like a librarian. Am I looking like a librarian with all my books behind me? Gosh, that was a lot. So what I'm going to do now is, if you all have any questions in the live chat on YouTube, I think I have a YouTube feed going on right now, as well as a Facebook feed and Twitter. I'm trying to manage 11 different screens at one time. I'm not the best at this, but if you have any questions where you want to participate in the conversation, feel free to do that. There's also a form that's connected to the YouTube channel where you can put into the Google Doc that's there your answers to these questions. I guess I should have said that to everyone in their respective rooms, but they got that worksheet ahead of time, so I think they'll be fine. I'm gonna jump into the first room then and see how things are going. So we're gonna jump into the Cheryl Dunye room, join this room. let's do that. There we go. So it appears that the camera doesn't go, the feed doesn't go into into the breakout rooms. They're not going to be in the breakout rooms long. What I will do is put this back up on the screen, the form that I just read from. And I would like for you all in the YouTube link to hit the Google form there and fill out your answers, what you would do in those respective rooms. What are some of the solutions you would like to provide given your respective programs? And there's that page again. What are some of the best practices you would offer up in this scenario? Let's see if we can figure out a way to bring the Zoom rooms, the breakout rooms to the camera. All right. Well, it doesn't seem that I can take the breakout room with me, but we're going to go to another room anyway. All right, so as it seems, there's no real way for the camera to follow into the breakout rooms, but the breakout rooms are actually going to last on the short term anyway. So what we are going to do is just patiently wait for our teams to come back. In the meantime, I'll take some more questions and talk to you all about the various options you see as being viable. I am looking for that. There we go. Being viable options in the classroom. For us at Prairie View, one of the things that we did, and I'm going to take you there right now, is we did an online series with a variety of different industry leaders who gave our students access to who they are and what they do in the world via Zoom. And so here's a solution, and I'm going to share this with you on screen, that we arrived at in the spring. And again, it's one of those things where we want to continue to do this sort of work, but at the same time, we do recognize that to have a fully realized experience, it's going to take more than just an online lecture series or, getting students to shoot material with their cell phones or that sort of thing. So the idea here is how to continue to create innovative options. One thing we did here was here at Prairie View was the lecture series that I put together with, how many did we have? I want to say we had 19 different speakers. Professor TDV's film and television lecture series via Zoom. So I invited a number of my contacts from the industry, people I've known for many years, to participate in this conversation around filmmaking, writing, producing, directing, and gave our students an opportunity to talk with them in a much more intimate context. We were all quarantined, right? We all still are, quite technically, but at that point in March, things were so uncertain and brand new and scary that we were all just kind of locked away in our homes and not certain how we were going to handle, you know, the right now or even the tomorrow. So I reached out to a number of my friends and said, hey, you're a captive audience. You're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. Can you help me out? So a number of my colleagues and friends participated in this lecture series, and you're welcome to take a look at any of the videos. I asked each of them for about, you know, half hour, 45 minutes of their time. On average, each of the speakers gave us about an hour, hour and a half of their time. And the idea here was to learn from industry leaders firsthand what are some of the best practices and what were they doing during COVID. Darnell Walker here is a writer for HBO's Sesame Street, as well as the new Blue's Clues. And he shared with us how he was staying creative and keeping at work as a writer. Tiffany Black is an independent filmmaker and an actress. Gloria Bigelow writes for the CBS show Bob Hart's Abishola, and just on and on and on. Justin Simeon, the creator and producer and director of Dear White People. These amazing, amazing artists gave of their time and provided best practices, provided stories, provided inspiration to our students. And it was just one of those things that we certainly will keep going as we approach the fall. We're coming up on 5 minutes left of their breakout sessions. And so hopefully they're getting some good stuff. They're going to come back and talk to us. We have Pete Chapman, Morinike Jola, Mo Mashadi, who participated in this series as well. And you can see all of their interviews, newscasters, Lamaya Harvell, Jordan Foster, looking at broadcast journalism and how they're managing their time and efforts during these COVID days. And yeah, so we invite you to go to pvamutv.org to look at any of these videos and see how these industry leaders are faring during COVID-19 and quarantine. Certainly, as our educators continue to brainstorm and figure out what they're doing there, I'm excited about them presenting to all of you. So I am actually going to shorten their time a little bit so that they can share their ideas with us a little bit more immediately. So we're going to stop the share there and take a look at how much time they in fact have so that good. And there we go. We'll bring them back in just a second. So we're going to start the presentations at, it says 2:55, but we're going to start it a little bit earlier because my goal was to take you all into the various breakout sessions where there's an interesting and compelling conversation happening in there, but we're going to bring them out a little bit early. It's kind of like making the sun rise a little bit earlier in the Truman Show type thing. All right, breakout rooms. Let me just check in with them and let them know we're gonna Okay. So what I've decided to do is I'm closing all the rooms, and because we are closing the rooms a little bit early so that you all can see what the conversation is going to be, I am going to have all the participants round robin their ideas in real time, and I will moderate that process in real time as well. So we're going to go ahead and close all the rooms out, all the breakout rooms. They're going to be coming back in 22 seconds. This is very exciting. 22 seconds. And we'll have everyone back in, and we'll round robin their ideas around some of these solutions. Here they come. Here we are. Excellent. Excellent.
Hi, I just got kicked out of my group.
Oh, I just brought everyone back to the main group.
Oh.
Yeah, I just brought everyone back to the main group. Don't fret. Don't.
Oh, okay, I was in the middle of answering the question. I was like, what happened?
No. I know, right? I was like, it's like the Truman Show. I'm gonna bring up daylight all of a sudden for everyone all at once.
He was in the middle of that point.
So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to moderate each group, allowing each group to step forward and speak in real time, primarily because with the breakout rooms, the live stream won't go into the respective breakout rooms. And so to keep from, that collective from watching a black screen the whole time while you work, I just cut this section short by like 7 minutes. So thinking about the various groups that you're in, just take a moment to think about your answers. And I am going to moderate the presentation piece of it. And also, instead of it being like a single spokesperson that speaks on your behalf, those of you who were in your respective groups just now, you can chime in as a collective and try our best over the course of 6-7 minutes talk about your particular answers. Okay, so first up, we have the Cheryl Dunye room. I'm gonna remind the audience who's watching what you all are focusing on in that particular room. You are focusing on 3 learning/production activities suitable for face-to-face courses for a freshman level class. So those of you who are in the Cheryl Dunye room, go ahead and give that a shot.
Sure. One of the things we were discussing right before we came back to the collective group, and I thought it was a great idea that was presented, was since this is a freshman level course or the first experience that students will have coming into your film or media programs, spend some time actually doing some sort of safety certification to know the standards that are in place this semester with social distancing, face masks, cleaning of equipment, things like that, that would be beneficial to them since they've never been in this environment, and let them know these are the things that we need to do. And if there is a sort of certification standard that would be able for them to interact with and follow that from whether it's state or even national film programs and what the professional world is doing with those standards as well.
Awesome. Anyone else? That actually is a great solution that, we're moving into a new day of production, and at a freshman level, even incorporating into that freshman level production class, freshman level survey class, the importance now of a different type of protocol when going into production. Excellent.
The only other thing that I'll add that we were just talking about before we split there was the fact that you have to remember, of course, that we're talking about freshmen who don't know what they don't know. Right. And that's not to say that we can feed them anything and tell them that that's just the way it is, because Lord knows we don't know how it is right now. But I think it's really important that they understand 2 things. First of all, if they're going into a working set, who normally does what? And then if we're talking about the COVID era, how do those roles get changed? How do you modify those roles based on having to stay 6 feet away from somebody, or wearing a face mask and trying to look through a lens or through a viewfinder while wearing a face mask, etc.?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any thoughts to additional safety protocols that you would incorporate into a new handbook?
I think there needs to be very clear cleaning procedures in place, meaning what are students responsible for, what is staff and faculty responsible for, and spelling that out really clearly. And so things aren't going by uncleaned and saying, oh, well, we don't know who's responsible for that. There should be absolutely everything taken into account in that. And that's going to be quite a list, but that's what the playbook is for.
Yeah, yeah. I love that playbook. I like that better than a handbook. Yeah, this is officially now a playbook. Absolutely, absolutely. Great call, Josh. Okay, let's move to the Ava DuVernay room. Thank you to everyone from the Cheryl Dunier room. Let's move to the Ava DuVernay room, the second room in our collective. We're talking about presenting 3 learning/production activities suitable for a hybrid experience. So our students are spending part-time on campus, perhaps, and part-time in a virtual or online setting. Tell us from the Ava DuVernay room, what are some of the options for a first year or freshman level course during this time? Your mic might be muted if you're trying to speak out.
I don't know if we really got that far. I think we talked a little bit more about production safety.
Okay, let's start there then. Yeah.
And I think that because we had some overlap between higher education and high school, there was some discussion as to like where are the similarities, where are the differences. But I think that one of the similarities was how to just exist in a online, even if it's hybrid sort of scenario, that just the basic safety of one's own space in class, which obviously then can, we didn't really discuss this, but if you ever have to conduct virtual interviews, it's going to be the same sorts of ideas, which is what sorts of information can be present just in your background, whether that be people, whether that be objects, information, and how to be cognizant of that, be wary of that, and also how, based upon maybe a state agency, whether that be high school or whether it be university, how safe, secure, or private those communications might be.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yes. Anything else from the Ava room?
He summed that up perfectly. As he said, we didn't really get into a lot of listing specific activities for freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
It really became more of a conversation about safety and the different rules and regulations that we're each presented with, as well as, you know, just some of the challenges for students that are doing the hybrid learning at home versus the in-person face-to-face education.
Yeah.
I did want to add one thing though, is
sure, go for it.
I was thinking about this. One of the things that was mentioned was the idea of a high school program that's teaching to quote unquote standards, having a specific agenda in order to prepare them for university level instruction. And what I was thinking while that was being said is I've worked at least 3 different institutions in which there is no telling where students are entering, from what sort of background. So even though we might have some students who come in who just know a ton, we also will have just as many students who know nothing.
Right.
And so from an higher education standpoint of a freshman class, we deal with both ends of the spectrum, including the middle, for what we have to prepare them for.
Yeah. I think the added piece of complexity where a hybrid class is concerned is if the traffic of students is coming, if there's a regular sense of traffic coming, of students coming to campus from wherever they're coming from the outside world, what is the responsibility of the constant renewal of threat if students are coming to campus? Where are they coming from in the world? What are their safety precautions? Are they using off campus or off site? And so with a hybrid situation, if we have students who are constantly back and forth between, 2 days I'm on campus and 3 days I'm not, that's a constant renewal of, are you bringing the virus to us? Are you bringing any sort of, harm or threat to us each new time? And so what Hassan, what I really especially admire about what you were saying about creating a culture of, a new culture for these freshmen, because they don't know what they don't know until they know it, is it then becomes on us to say, in this environment, this is what you do. And we really reset everyone's thinking around the approach of walking through the door, how you walk through the door in a hybrid or face-to-face setting. Good. And so then let's move on to the Shonda Rhimes room. The Shonda Rhimes room, group number 3. You were exploring learning production activities if we were in a totally virtual or online form for freshman level class. What were some of the ideas, suggestions you came up with?
Okay, I'm gonna jump in if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we came up with 3 online-ish ideas. And the first one was to kind of start our students out, being that we don't know what kind of equipment they have, what access they have. We were kind of operating off of mobile media and cell phones for freshmen online, just using that as the main equipment that they'd be using. And the first thing we said was starting off with like a storytelling, personal narrative storytelling exercise where they just sat in front of the computer and recorded themselves telling a story and uploaded it to share so that other students, they could get to know each other, they could see each other's storytelling styles and sort of that sort of thing, and incorporate that into storytelling lectures. And then the second one, Brittany, do you want to talk about the composition scavenger hunt?
Sure.
Oh, yes, I love the sound of that.
Yeah, so something that we were talking about was, and this was something that Fritz brought up, was the idea of a survey to initially figure out what kind of equipment and software that the students are working with. And then we went on in our group to talk about how, regardless of the equipment that they're working with, a lot of the concepts that we're going to be teaching them are going to remain the same regardless of what they have available to them. So we can still teach them composition and framing and lighting. And something that I've used in the past, even in a traditional sense, just to get my students up and out of the classroom, whenever they're learning the cameras and learning composition, is a scavenger hunt. So implementing, of course, safety protocols while they're going to do that with masks and remaining socially distanced, but seeing what they do whenever we say to get a close-up of somebody or a sequence of some sort of action. And we thought that that could easily be done online.
Outstanding. Good. Anyone else from this group want to talk about safety, additional safety elements that can go into the playbook?
We didn't get too much into the safety end of things, but something that everyone in our group really liked hearing about was Whipster, which is something that Annie uses.
Right. So our university, we're using Whipster, which is a file sharing, video sharing, and feedback platform that allows us to have our students upload videos that either we can just see as instructors or they can see each other's. And you're able to give real-time comments like right on the screen. So you can click and the comment will actually be on the screen exactly where you want it. So overexposed here or check your audio here, and it creates sort of a task list that they then have. It generates a task list out of comments And the company's been really great to work with, and they have a lot. Yes, it costs money, but it's not terrible. It does cost money though. I'm sharing the link right now for Whipster, and they've been great to work with. They're very accessible.
Awesome. That's an excellent resource. Thank you so much for that,
Oh,
Annie.
yes. It interfaces with Premiere Pro and it interfaces with Dropbox.
And one
Wow.
thing
Do you know if it interfaces with Final Cut?
Not sure, but probably. I don't know. I know
Yeah.
Premiere and I know Dropbox for sure. But if you look at it on the website, I'm sure they'd let you know.
Okay. Yeah, we do a lot. We're an Apple campus for film and for digital media production, even though we have both platforms, but so much is, can we do it with Final Cut Pro? That's the recurring question for a lot of this right now as we navigate that. But this is a great resource. Thank you so much. That's just awesome. Let's move to the Julie Dash
Oh, okay.
room. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something else you want to add?
I'm going to say that I don't know if we talked about specifically, but just to make sure that if we're forced in that online environment, that the students are aware of what the expected outcomes still are for the course.
Sure.
Through the syllabus and just discussing how we expect to still achieve those outcomes, especially if they're coming in as first-time students.
Yeah.
Then they're already, upset about not being on campus, but just the reassurance and letting them know what the course expectations and outcomes are and how we expect to still achieve them in an online environment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jennifer, do you foresee any, how that might affect assessment? As all of us here are constantly, mapping out accreditation and how assessment plays into the viability of our courses. Do you feel like online classes, or any of you can chime in with this, do you feel like going to an online format, how can we address assessment issues or issues of, when that question of, in this format, does that class check all the marks for assessment?
Well, I know that just this past semester, because we talked about that with assessment specifically and, being an accredited program, but I know we've gotten some, they've lessened the rules because of COVID. So it's kind of like it doesn't really count. Last semester doesn't count. Going forward, we have to kind of examine it, I think, semester by semester. And that's why at the moment we're in a high flex hybrid situation, because we know the importance of having hands-on for production courses. But I do think it can impact, the programs, especially if they're a production-based program. But
yeah,
at the moment we're safe for now. But I think it's something, someone else can please jump in on how it's being done at your university.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go and move on to the Julie Dash room. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for that. Because that assessment piece is, child. Julie Dash room. We're looking at face-to-face during COVID. If we are tasked with the face-to-face assignment, what are some of the activities at a sophomore or junior level course? What are some of the suggestions there to support our colleagues that have that ahead of them?
Well, the first thing we started off doing was thinking about what lessons did we learn in the transition, in the abrupt transition from face-to-face to online. And we were just gotten through that just before we came back here. But one of the things that we kind of, I think, agreed upon was, or maybe not agreed upon, but started thinking about, was having your course set up for online from the beginning. So if all your things are in your course management shell, and one of the things we didn't get to talk about, but I was just in another workshop before this one, is do a checklist, a technology checklist assessment, so that you know upfront what your students have. But even before you do the assessment, you send out the expectations. So in order to do this course, here are the things that you need to have. Here are the things that you need to have access to. And then if you have the checklist and do the assessment, you can know where they are. So that was one of the things that I think that I'm just distilling it down for my team.
Yeah.
Then for the other part about the networking career, we didn't actually get to that, but I put 3 of them in the chat: the Directors Guild training program, Writers Guild training program, and NABJ student internship program. And there are others, ONA, and I tend to come from the news side a lot, but I do work on a lot of documentaries. So a lot of film festivals have internship programs too.
Excellent. Are they, so with those internship programs, and taking consideration that, we're in a different construct right now, have any of those platforms addressed how their internships might be different, or are they innovative in the way of considering that the students may not even be on campus, much less reporting to a professional internship? Are they showing any sort of flexibility where that's concerned?
I can't speak firsthand for the 3 I listed, but North Carolina Central has a partnership with Duke University. And we had 20 students that had internships at Duke. And I think 16 of them still did their internships virtually, because a lot of it was writing, or they could shoot, or they could access the web and doing social media type things, or web website oriented activities. So it was a lot more writing. Even some of the shooting, they could come on campus and shoot, but they practice the social distancing, but it's not a lot of people there. But some of the things they needed to do, they could do without having to actually interact with folks physically.
Right. Okay.
So it's still possible to do it.
Yeah. Can't stop the train. Things like doing research for news organizations. Let's say your local news affiliate has some internship openings. We had a number of students before spring break had professional internships with the ABC affiliate here in Houston, and collectively lost those internships because, again, in reactionary mode, people were just like, just go home, and we don't know what else to do with you, and just go home. And but then probably a week later, some of those calls start to come back through, because it was like, oh, well, from home you can research lead stories, or you can make phone calls on our behalf, or you can write press releases, or you could manage our social media platform, or you could do these other elements. And so what I think one thing as instructors we can do in terms of, and we'll talk, perhaps this comes up a little bit later in the capstone area as well, is as we start thinking about our seniors, preparing them for, their lives in the business, whether it's moving into careers or going on to graduate school, this might be an actual win in terms of, as far as a win could exist. And that we're really starting to think now towards research. How do we incorporate more research into our pedagogy if you don't already? Because as a production-oriented program, the research is there, right? You need to, before you write a script, you need to know exactly, what you're writing about. You just can't pull things out of the ether and claim to know a thing about a thing. Research is always the backbone of everything. But this might be a great opportunity to not only remind our students of that, but actually incorporate even more teaching models and teaching approaches for where research is concerned, and show them how it will serve them beyond just an assignment for class, that you could potentially use that as a selling card for yourself to a news agency or to a writer's room. I mentioned earlier that we had Justin Simeon talk to our classes at Prairie View this spring as a part of the lecture series that we put together as a response to the COVID pandemic and having to stay at home. And Justin, he was still in the writer's room, even though it was virtual. They were still plugging away and writing the next season of Dear White People, and they were still writing, he's still working on whatever thing he's working on. and saying how you could actually use 2 or 3 interns to help with, the research, and how deeper and richer the research has become because folks are now at home with the time to look and read and do that. So all that to say, this could be something that can be implemented, and just a rethinking of how we approach research in our programs. Anyone else in the Julie Dash room before we go to the Lena Waithe room? The Lena Waithe team, we're looking at hybrid opportunities for sophomore, junior level courses. What did you all come up with in that room?
Well, I don't think we actually got too much into developing hybrid courses. We talked a lot about safety and, the return back to campus. The idea, and I think there were some really good suggestions. I don't want to speak for anybody else. We just talked about, making sure that everyone who comes back to campus, is coming back to a safe environment. And we just talked about social distancing and, sanitization. And I think a lot of it kind of sort of depends on where you are. So that's just a variable that, just has to sort of work itself out wherever you are.
Yeah. What else from that particular group regarding hybrid course development, or even professional career development?
Because we talked so much about safety and other things, we really didn't get into it as much because as a group, we had a lot of questions about that. Sure. I can tell you that our institution, with our faculty, we're working with other institutions and museums, and we're doing a screening nights, virtual screening nights with MIT, and then they're bringing in different tech people. So we just did 2 weeks ago, we talked about the Matrix and how that was done. Those seem to be super successful, and they're going to open it up to everyone, I think, come fall. And then we're trying to put together a virtual film festival as just different opportunities that the students can show their work, because the majority of our students create documentaries for social justice. So we're trying to figure that out right now, but there will be something in the fall for them as well.
That is awesome. I'm noticing more and more film festivals, are still carrying on with their programming. The American Black Film Festival, which would have been in June, has now announced their slate of films that will be a part of a virtual festival. I think part of it is in August and another part of it is in October. But that seems to be perhaps a solution for all of our programs. I know at Prairie View, we have our film festival slated in October. We may be doing some of the same thing, but could also be a networking opportunity for our students with students at other programs. Finding ways to be creative in terms of using these online platforms as well for maybe collaboration between students. Let's say I have some students who, along with Lindsay and Lauren and Ann and Hassan and some of your students and my students, we collectively come up with a way where they can make something using these online platforms or using cell phone, or technology, pocket technology, or passing the baton type thing, where 5 students at 5 different programs shoot they agree on a script. Perhaps, we collectively put our students in each other's paths, and they collectively work on a particular script, and each person shoot a component or shoot a scene that can be tethered to that storytelling. And all of a sudden we have this single piece of storytelling that comes from 5 different parts of the nation. Maybe it's an anthology. Sure, that's an easy way to handle it. But maybe those 5 students, one who's in Vermont and somebody who's at USC and somebody else who's at Miami-Dade, they come up with one singular story. And then got excited. Hold on, juices are flowing. They come up with one singular story, and they pass the baton on how they film it, using what resources and safety measures they have within their reach. And maybe at the end of the year, we collectively put together a film festival that showcases not only their work, but our community, their work, our schools, our our community, right? Because I can go down the road of preaching about what we're going to do instead of being worried about COVID. We got stories to tell, and these babies are ready. All right, we're going to keep going. So we've heard from the Lena Waithe Collective just now. Yes. So let's move yeah, go ahead.
Before we get there, our group, which is the group just passed, there's a lot of things we did talk about, and particularly for some of us who are listening that teach production in a hybrid situation. There's a few things that I learned, even though might not be relevant to them that they were expressing it. Some universities have a small studio space. And in case you have 20 students, which production caps are 20, 25 maximum if you let them in. And in a situation, you got to teach a news production or broadcasting news. One of my colleagues in my team kind of gave a good idea. I don't know if it's the school instituting that. If you have a 20 student, 10 will come extended hours, if I heard him correctly. Extended hours, 10 will come, finish with 10, which normally you can use 10 people in a studio. And then maybe 45 minutes, then another 10 will come in 45 minutes. That is one of the good suggestions that I learned. If the university, due to class scheduling, if we will accommodate, the students don't have to switch to another class or anything like that. That would be a very good idea. And secondly, another person in our group, which she suggested, now in production, even though we may be using hybrid or whichever school decide to, you got to teach, particularly students don't come to our department in production until they get to junior year. And that is when they have access to camera and all those things. It's very important that we know in this situation, how do you sit down and hold a camera and show them and stand beside them and then try to show them how to operate a camera or how to edit, non-linear editing software. And, some of them have difficulty. They haven't paid attention to it when they were in high school. Now they're in college. How do you teach them how to edit? Good idea. Though there's a lot of tutorials that are there, but every university have different views on different software, non-linear software, on which one do you actually, like you said, your school are more into Apple than Adobe Premiere, even though Apple now incorporates Adobe Premiere. So she suggested, which I want everybody to take advantage, make a video of every equipment you have, because the one they get from the textbook is different from the one you teach them and that they hear from you, and then post it online so that you don't have to go through, and then you can respect the CDC rules, which is 6 feet apart, which were two interesting things that I picked up from our group. I asked the question and they explained it. Maybe it didn't occur to them, they were given very good information. All right. Yeah. No, it'd be wonderful to definitely incorporate the rotation, continue to demonstrate safety precautions with the number of people who can come into your space. As Eric has said, we may not have a larger TV studio, if you're talking about TV studio production, that sort of thing. We may not have the vast space so everyone can be, in a variety of different places at once. If we could set up, even within our time schedule, 10 students are they're in there for a period of time, they're out, the next wave comes in, and in an hour and a half, each collective has, 45 minutes in the space or what have you. Absolutely. And I think, that really is the only way we're going to get through the fall on the immediate level, if we are doing face-to-face or hybrid, is taking our students in shifts. Good. Anyone else from the Lena Waithe room who want to chime in?
I'm not, but I just want to point out that there's some really good conversation happening on the chat. So don't miss that.
Don't miss the chat. That's right. Okay. In fact, I'll pull up the chat while we also simultaneously move to the Casey Lemon Room. And by the way, all of these filmmakers, their information, the films that they've made, their significance, if you're not familiar with who these amazing women are, do research them. You've watched their films. These 9 women, you've seen something that they've created sometime, somewhere in your life. And so we're going to continue to pay homage to them and move into the Casey Lemon Room, Lemon's Room. And while our group is referring to, their suggestions in this area, I am going to pull up the chat, and I'd also say, if any of you have things that are in the chat that you want to say out loud, feel free to say them out loud. This is what this is. This is brainstorming. This is roundtable. If I have to go and kind of siphon through the chat, I'm missing something that's being said. So feel free to just say it yourself. But the great thing also about this chat is I'm going to be able to transcribe it and share it with the group afterwards as well in the PDF ebook that you all are going to get as a result of being a part of this experience. So, okay, that said, Casey Lemon's Room, we're looking at 3 production activities suitable for online. Did we just do that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, we just finished hybrid. Yeah, so online, go for it.
All right, well, this really ties into what's going on in the chat, and Teresa, what you were just talking about, but one of the first things we discussed was crowdsourcing. And it's a project that I'm working on for the fall called Campus Reboot, where colleges from all over the world can each film what's going on their campus during all this craziness. And it all goes into one big Dropbox folder and can be utilized on an interactive documentary where it can be seen all over the place. So that's where they're talking about it down here in the chat as far as narrative film is concerned, I believe, and you were talking about that. But as far as documentary, each student could add their own either vlog, video blog, or a micro documentary, and it all comes into one space where everybody could utilize it. And we have like now 15 schools with China, Australia, and England being involved as well. So it's really exciting that students are going to be able, and this could be any level, I think, especially if you're using cell phones. It's all according to if they have equipment totally online, they don't have equipment totally online, but the cell phone is going to be their camera, and they could either vlog by just holding it up and adding their feelings about, we're going to send a prompt out every 2 weeks that they can follow. Like what's going on in your school, or how are you feeling, or what's the cafeteria like, whatever it is, they film either a micro doc with B-roll and interviews and all of that, or they just do a vlog, and it all gets sent in. I have a 3 terabyte Dropbox that it'll all go into and then can be sourced out. So it's an idea that can work in any, we were saying in our group, it can work for Black Lives Matter. You could get kids from every campus saying what's going on their campus, right? And sharing that together and using each other's footage.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Susan, where do you share this material?
Yeah, well, we're going to be creating an interactive documentary that'll go up online, and everybody could share from there. So it'll be a map of the world, and your school will be on that map if you want to do it. You would have your students do the work, and then I would make you privy to the Dropbox as well, so you could pull out stuff and put in stuff. I'll put a file in the chat if y'all want to know more about it. But it's going to be a lot of work, and I've got a lot of people interested in really helping. Roberto, who is on right now with us, is one. But there's one in Australia that's already done this, because our summer's their winter. So they did it last semester that I didn't even know about. She sent the whole project to me. So that's going to go directly up onto the site. So it'll be a map of the world, and all the schools will be on it. And when you click on it, it'll go to your page with all of your video, or to our page with our video, or whoever. So it's just a really, I guess, a fun way for the students to see what's going on around the world with their own peers and utilize that footage to create other works.
Yeah. The chat is going crazy with delight over this idea. So yeah, Susan, you absolutely have to key us into this. Tell us which university in Australia is responsible for this goodness as well. And
yeah, Queensland is, and I'll put a file in the link, and then you can contact me through our email, and then I'll send you out what you need to know or how you want. You can do it any way you want. You could build it into your curriculum. You could just give the kids the link and they could do it on their own. There's a lot of ways to be involved in this, but it's something that I think is really exciting. But like I said, it doesn't just have to be for our campus reboot. It could be for any subject matter. You could do this. And we're doing it for FREE, free, okay? Because we're using a Wix site with a bit link right now, because my funding hasn't come through. I got some funding for it, but it hasn't come through yet, and I've got to get on the ball. But I happen to have a 3 terabyte Dropbox already, which only cost me like $200 a year. So it's like, and then I have to grow that, then I'll take the money from the grant. But it can be done without a lot of money put in. It just, students have to put in the input, and they have to learn, you know, their cell phones or if they have lucky enough to have cameras, which as we know, most don't. But this would be completely online, or it could be hybrid. They could do some work on campus and they can do some work at home. So it could work. But I know other members of my group had other ideas, so I'll put it in the chat, and I will mute myself now.
Susan, outstanding. I mean, outstanding nugget there. Yeah, folks are applauding you right now. That was tremendous. Anyone else from the Casey Lemons room who want to contribute, you know, extraordinary, innovative online opportunities for our students? And then also we're looking at faculty freshness. How can we maintain interest as faculty in some of the coursework that we're doing? Because it's not just what we're giving the students, it's also how do we maintain our own sense of sanity and drive. And, you know, there is nothing worse than waking up and going, I'm tired today, I don't want to do it, and I can't. I know for me, the best time for me is that moment I step right in front of my students and I'm like, oh, here we go. Yeah, I remember. I'm digging this. However, we're in a construct where stepping in front of our students is a very different thing. And how do we maintain that faculty freshness for this construct, or for our teaching within this construct? And again, I want to go back to what Susan just offered us. I think those out of the box, innovative, you know, things that people are doing either here in the States or abroad. That's the whole purpose of this construct too, is what are these amazing, brilliant people offering? So if you have something to contribute, maybe you're not in this session. I see all of a sudden the chat went crazy on YouTube also just now, same sort of thing. People are going crazy. Susan, you have a fan club now. Okay. The Issa Rae room.
Well,
this woman, oh yeah, go for it, please. Yes. Go ahead, Lauren.
I was in the previous group, and I did want to point out, because a lot of us seem to be working with like limited resources, and in particular, I'm at a university where students have limited resources and funds. So I do think that, you know, taking the time to embrace the technology that is available to most students, which are their cell phones, and centering projects around items that are always constantly available. For those who do filmmaking, you kind of know what it means to make use of what's around you. You know how to DIY your way through literally anything. So, you know, a lot of the projects that we discussed, and I heard someone else, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but you mentioned the scavenger hunt kind of project. I think a lot of us probably do composition, which is the same concepts of using the phone. I brought up kind of using a DIY lighting kind of project where students can just walk around their home and find lamps or practicals that are around them and learn to light with those. YouTube is full of people doing that kind of thing. But definitely something that I do think that I really enjoy about like Susan's idea is the fact that we all seem to be lacking footage and materials in which to work with, especially if you're teaching editing and you don't have editing materials. So I think if we could find a way to really collaborate and bring together just a source of raw footage, which this project would certainly do it. And I know that Rick mentioned, for those of you who are doing broadcasting, it seems a lot of the issues is multicam footage. So kind of a need for just unedited 3 cameras, all the raw footage. It seems like a lot of people are really struggling with that. So I think it's going to be a matter of crowdsourcing once again, just trying to get all that raw footage available for all of us to use, especially right now, especially fully online.
Can I add one thing? When we talk about trying to come up with ideas for students, one thing that my capstone class did last semester that was a lot of fun. So they did a take on all those TikTok videos that were going on where they pass something, then someone picks it up in the next room. So they did one on what it takes to become to put together a newscast. So they had editor, producer, reporter, and they edited it, remotely. They put their video on Dropbox. The producer edited it together. They did within a day and a half, which was their deadline. And we uploaded it on YouTube. I'll share the link, and it turned out really great. And it was a great way for them to collaborate in this virtual environment and get into doing what all of their contemporaries are doing, using those little videos. So that was a fun project aside from everything else that we were doing.
Yeah. Oh, I look forward to looking at that, Jennifer. You and Lauren just completely hit the nail on the head just now too, with the fact that we probably have in place a lot of infrastructure already for success within the online forum. I think some of it might even be our own apprehension and our own fears, and even fielding some of their fears. I know with a few of my students, content and creativity isn't so much the thing, it's the actual resources of, if they're staying out in Prairie View, if you've ever been to the country, is the country. And so a phone signal or Wi-Fi in some places, I don't want to talk mess on my town. I'm not necessarily from Texas, but it's my town now since I'm here. And it can be a challenge to make all those technical pieces work. But trust what you have, and maybe it's writing really great stories, and then maybe eventually you get to shooting it a little bit later. And as faculty, making space for that, having grace for that. When a student says, I am trying the best I can, I don't actually own a computer, I don't own my own camera, the equipment cage is not available, I'm gonna do what I can with my cell phone. Okay, so it might be a vertical shot, no matter how many times we ask them to turn the orientation on their cell phones so we can have a full screen. I see the heads are bowing and laughing and amen, and the tambourine shaking, because we've been there. But for that freshman, like you said, who don't know until they know, we may then have to give a little grace for that learning curve. Awesome.
Also,
okay.
Let me just
go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
There's two things. The two quick things are, one, I let my students do a vertical project for the social media piece. So it's not like I'm giving in to them. It's just because that's where a lot of production has gone to. They're doing it for that format now. So we have to recognize that. And the other part is, I've been working with my students on resilience and the whole concept of resilience to help them with their behavior and how they even approach this creative process. And that's been a challenge for them. But the one thing that when they kind of deal with the resilience part, which encompasses a lot of hope, one of the things they do is they realize, one, we always talk about they don't know what they don't know, but let's respect what they grew up with because they're digital natives. And once we give them that respect, they return it by giving us really, really good product. Because once they understand that we respect them and what they already know, and we're going to do a counseling thing of reach them where they are and then take them to where we want them to be, but also learn from them, because there's some things that they know how to do better than we can. So
they've been shooting for a lot. Yeah, I'm sorry, Brett, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, okay, you needed to, because we got to go.
Okay, so next up is the Issa Rae room, and that collective face-to-face for senior or capstone level course. This is where we're definitely getting into our students as they're on their way out, but out where, to what? What's ahead of them? What were some of the ideas that came from that collective?
I'll go ahead and anyone from our group jump in if I miss something. But we are all kind of, I think, dealing with from last semester. I'm sure everybody had different things for their capstone students or their senior thesis students. But a couple of things we were talking about is, one, using the fall to really, just like what you were saying, work on research and work on previs. Spending I think Michael said it in our group, you could previs can always be better. And if you actually take this moment to really spend time on that as a learning opportunity, I think students can get really good at that entire part of production, not just with writing, but with storyboarding, floor plans, and animatics. If those of you who we at OU, we had a really good students were able to visualize through animating their storyboards, timing, and they basically edited their films before they even shot them. So animatics, I think, are a huge part of the pre-visualization and pushing production to maybe the spring, but who knows. Another thing we talked about, and honestly, I'm just going to be honest, we were all very hesitant about face-to-face. So a lot of this you can do online. The other thing that we were talking about was, you have to think now about writing your thesis scripts to use everything what everybody's saying, cell phones, you can make some really cool stuff, your webcams, but if you're not limiting those expectations or reframing those expectations for your students now, they're going to be heartbroken when the spring isn't going to work out. So being really realistic, and I love what people were saying about tell your students what you can do as opposed to what you can't do. Reframing that language, it's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for them, but they're artists, get them excited. Alex was saying, lean into this, and that's a real thing. So being really positive about these challenges as a way to make your students feel like, okay, I can do this.
One thing, Lindsay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, jump in.
No, just one of the things too that I said to them last spring, and I mean, it's a little harder because now we're getting into the place where this is normalized. But I would sort of have this kind of straight talk with them and say, the fact of the matter is, most of you before COVID were going to make student work that probably, would be good learning experience. You'd make something, maybe be proud of it for a little while. Eventually you'd cringe at it. It wouldn't really go anywhere. Now you have an opportunity to engage with a pandemic. Like now you could make work that could last, that could actually mean something to future audiences. And so to actually kind of not think of it as in the negative, but really to think of it as the opportunity, right? To you're in a moment of history. We live in interesting times, unfortunately. So, that was something that I emphasized, and some of them really took to that. So, yeah. Sorry, Lindsay, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that was great. I don't know if we had any other really just kind of big ideas, but one thing to talk about freshness, and we didn't even get that far because we were all just like feeling for each other, but I have noticed that my students tap out after an hour. So if there's any way to change modes online, then breakout groups really help. That's a big.
Yeah, good call on that. Excellent. All right, I'm going to keep us moving forward here, since now we're starting to come towards the end of things. The Michaela Cole room, we're looking at hybrid senior level, capstone level solutions. And then in addition to that, equipment management solutions. Again, some of our students are now charged with having to come up with their own solutions equipment-wise if they're not coming back on campus. Or if we are going to a hybrid sort of situation, what are some of the suggestions you have for equipment management in moving from face-to-face to virtual?
Okay, then I'll start off. One, I think that we need to curb our expectations on what equipment that our students can have. For one, our department is really equipment heavy. We do like full productions, especially in the capstone classes and the senior classes, narrative type filmmaking. And that is in terms of cleaning and in terms of sanitizing, plus social distancing. in a hybrid situation where some students may be there, some not, I think that we should probably have an expectation that you're not going to be using a full, grip van, full of equipment, and focus more on the, and actually Stacy was talking about kind of more personalized storytelling instead. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm, at Annenberg, and we're doing news in our newsroom. So phones were big this past, the last part of the semester, and there is some equipment that students can get, an adapter, because it's more of the audio that's an issue, although they aren't really doing too many interviews in person, right? Because we really don't want that, we're not, unless it's within their own, family or small, group. But in terms of the visual piece, I think phones are good. I mean, I think the thing for us to think about too, is just that, what somebody else said is this is a huge moment that we're dealing with right now. I mean, there's so many, and I'm thinking this fall, we're going to have the election. All right. So that feels like number 3. I mean, we have feels like a major social justice movement happening in the midst of a pandemic. And then we're probably going to have the election, the biggest election, right, of a century, with issues of voter suppression and all of these things. So I feel like sometimes the equipment, sure, in a perfect world, yeah, we want it to be, up here. And I just feel like we have to, work with what we have, and the limitations are there, but there's a lot you can do with a phone. And I feel like in terms of storytelling, to adapt, and we talked about that a little bit in our group too, just adapting to this moment, is really an important skill, to be looking at, where we're at.
Yeah. Stacey, you say something incredibly important there, in that it's one of those things where we've gotten so caught up into the whole bells and whistles of all the things and the mechanics and the big explosives. And then it's like, let's go back to pen and paper. Let's go back to, let's, internalize how we're telling our stories, and it might even make those stories that much more important to us again. Because the story is the thing. Susan just typed that in. Don't keep that from us. The story is the thing. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. And even also with visuals, I find that sometimes photos are really, can be just as compelling, good shots. And sometimes mixing those in, I kind of like the mix of both video and photos. Sometimes there's sort of a time and place for both. There's lots of interesting possibilities. So
yeah, I just wanted to chime in also, because I was in the same group, and I think one of the things we also discussed was that we don't even have to give up the collaborative aspect of it. Different students can work on different aspects of the same theme, right? If you're covering elections, they're happening everywhere. So you can get students who are stationed in different states or different cities monitoring and covering, especially when it comes to news.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final thoughts from the Michaela Cole room? All right, we're going to go to our final room, which is our Gina Price Bythewood room. And that is looking at senior capstone or senior level activity from an online perspective. I think we've kind of touched on some of it already, but I want that group to have an opportunity to talk about what some of their solutions were regarding online for senior level or senior capstone type course, and any sort of ideas towards equipment management also from that particular collective.
Yeah, I can chime in. And actually, we were fortunate because Ethan from the University of Denver, who had to head out, manages their equipment room. So that was we talked a lot about the equipment and kind of how that would work. And I will put a link in the chat right here This is a kit that he sent out to the students at University of Denver that actually isn't that much, because we were talking about how we're trying to work that at our different schools too. Penn State, for example, we're trying to figure out, we don't, even though we're big, we don't have the resources to get a camera in every student's hand for the semester. With all of our, between film and journalism and telecom studio production, it's just not going to happen. So we're trying to figure out, can some of the courses be done on phones? If we can provide them some materials to get it a little bit higher than just the phone, at something that's we can maybe afford. So this was something that he said worked really well for his students. It's not a much to ship it. Obviously, everything right now is really popular, but they did have some of this on B&H too. And we also talked about, for some situations where if students are going to have access to an equipment room, is there the possibility they can check stuff out for the semester? But then someone in our group made up the point of, then if they all scatter, how do we get it back? Shipping is expensive.
Yeah.
So this kind of scenario with taking the phone and being able to just enhance it a little bit, particularly for audio, it was a huge thing, at least from all of us from the spring semester. So that was a big one. We didn't get as much into the assignments, but I think what some of the other people have talked about before in terms of hybrid and online stuff, even if it's senior capstone, I think going back to the story part of it. And I really liked thinking about your thesis script for any scenario of equipment is really smart. And I wrote that down because I know, particularly for our senior film students, they have grand visions in mind because when they started in the program, there was no coronavirus. So, so I don't blame them for that, but.
Something else that we didn't talk about, but that it's piggybacking on what people have said is, I think it's really important that if we are kind of going low tech and saying, hey, even if you're a senior major, you might be shooting on your phone, et cetera, is that we show them a lot of examples from the whole history of alternative media, which goes back 50 years. And so that they can see that, you can be really creative, that it's about creative problem solving using low tech solutions. So you don't want to be just throwing up examples from Hollywood and network news and things like that, and then saying, okay, do the best you can with your phone. But instead show them the whole lineage of alternative media. Unfortunately, a lot of that stuff is hard to find or really expensive to buy if your library doesn't already have it. But with some searching, you can find some good examples.
I'm
One
gonna
idea might be,
go for it.
Oh, I was just
Go
going to
for
say,
it. Yep.
piggybacking on what Daniel was just saying, we, for the capstone, but this was a broadcast journalism class, we were able to do a Zoom with a reporter who was out covering coronavirus. He stopped, called in from his car, and was able to share with the students what he did and how he was able to tell the story. And so one of their assignments, as soon as we came back from spring break, we were like, well, you're doing what every other journalist is doing right now. So they had to go out, shoot something in their communities, put it together, edit it on deadline, and it came out really, really well. So when they saw that, hey, we're doing the same things that other professionals are doing, it didn't seem that foreign, and they actually felt they had an advantage, strangely enough. Other students.
That is outstanding.
Yeah.
I'm going to screen share since we're going to piggyback real quick on equipment. I've been putting together a package that I'm going to inspire my students to pick up in lieu of a textbook or in addition to a textbook, depending on what their resources look like, since they may have to purchase their own gear themselves. And so I've asked my colleagues also to put together their own basic production kit that they would inspire students to get. And then we would mesh those ideas together to come up with an agreed upon collective of items that perhaps the students would be worth their while. And so as I'm putting this production kit together, just dropping in things like different types of ways to capture sound, depending on the type of device they have, different rigs where they can stabilize their cell phone so that it's not just kind of, holding their cell phone in their hand. I mean, our students are so much more savvy where some of this stuff is concerned too than us, because these people have lived their whole entire life with devices in their hands. And so I think it goes back to what Brett was saying also, is giving them a lot more credit, and maybe even leaning into the idea of they being the teachers, when it comes to discerning what's the appropriate kit or the equipment to have in hand as we move forward. Okay, I think that was our last room. Before I start to close out and finish with some lasting thoughts, anyone else have anything that they want to contribute, or an idea or an activity that you do within your program that you feel like we should share? And of course, you can share it in the chat. I'm going to transcribe and work all this material and put it together in a concise PDF for all of you to have, and to make it available for our viewers on YouTube who have been incredibly engaging and interactive as well. Any lasting thoughts?
One thing I wanted to follow up just on that last equipment thought is the idea that there is definitely the quote unquote professional level of equipment, and then there's the more prosumer. And one thing from an institutional level is thinking about what equipment will survive. And one thing I've mentioned to students when they ask, is this something that's good? Is this something that's better? Is to say that this cheap or inexpensive production item might be the thing that you should buy, because you will be the only person who actually uses that. And that when it breaks, you will then determine how cheap it is to replace and if you want to upgrade. Whereas on an institutional level, if I'm thinking about purchasing gear, I don't want something that breaks 2 days into it and then I have to replace it. So I think that that's a really good conversation to be able to have with students, as they may have to purchase their own equipment, or as they eventually decide that they may want to be purchasing equipment.
Yeah. Excellent note.
Can I jump in? There was something I had wanted to propose or offer. I'm part of some other sort of quarantine working groups and stuff, and one of my colleagues had started an exchange Google Doc where basically I'm seeing people from so many different fields and so many different kind of spectrums. I teach more doc experimental, but there's broadcast people, but basically a kind of opportunity where you'd have a Google Doc and people could say what they sort of their areas of expertise are and what they might be looking for guest lectures in their classes. So this is like a freshness question, and that we sort of let ourselves, if you're open and amenable to maybe popping into somebody's class and doing something, that, there'd be sort of an exchange back and forth. So I just wanted to throw that out there if there's any interest in doing something like that.
Well, that's a great segue to what I'm going to show you next. Where this exercise experience is probably going to serve us as faculty the most is the community that we are forging as a result. I introduced you all to Mickey Turner before we started the call from USC, and she and I are going to tag team on a number of our classes this fall. She at USC, me at Prairie View, and just kind of banter back and forth with some of our students when it comes to film and photography and storytelling in general. Let me screen share the next item here so that we can do this. So there, again, on our website at PVAMU TV, and I'm going to give you all the link. This is a temporary site. There's going to be a dedicated website for this activity, primarily because I want to have another session in January, a postmortem of the fall semester in a sense, to see how things went for everyone and what worked, what maybe needed some tweaking. I'm not going to say what didn't work, because we're only working from positivity here. Everything is either going to work or could work better. And so this site that we're going to build is going to be exactly what my guy just said. I lost him on my page just now. Where is he? Kirsten, there he is.
Alex,
Kirsten?
yeah,
I was about to say, is your name Kirsten? He's Alex. Okay.
You never sent me a Zoom link, so my colleague sent it to me. Or some
Got it.
others.
Got it. I was like, hey, you know what? If it's Kirsten, who am I to say it ain't, you know? But yes, Alex, he just, he's talking about forging community and building network and that sort of thing so that we can support each other and tag team on classes and that sort of thing. This particular site is going to be dedicated to that. And on the temporary level, we're housing it at PWIs TV because this thing sort of blossomed into something larger virtually overnight. So I haven't had time to make its own dedicated site yet, but at pwmutv.org/film-tv-protocol-brainstorm. Yeah, all of that. It'll be a much more simpler URL later, but in the meantime, film, TV, protocol, brainstorm. In between each of the words will bring you to this site. Now I'll put it in the various places so everyone can find it. But before we started the call, the last few days, the faculty that you've seen in this session and beyond, 111 faculty members, as a matter of fact, were asked what were some of the ways they were successful with the abrupt shift from online from face-to-face to online this spring. What were some of the wins? What ways were you just successful? And I asked them to offer those stories and then offer one or two ways that were just like, gosh, I need to get out of this semester. This is not working. And they can also be something of cautionary tales for us as we move forward. This particular approach may not be as effective because of X, Y, and Z. And so our colleagues were gracious enough to give us some of those perspectives. And I've been working on a Prezi style site that will allow you to click a particular school, and that person, that faculty member who gave that story or those narratives, their story will come up and you'll be able to read what was successful for them and what was less than successful for them. So this is going to be complete here in the next couple days. And then there's also a revisiting of the various rooms, and we'll be able to click on a particular room and the notes from today's talk regarding that particular subject will come up depending on the room that you select. And then as an exit survey, I've put together an exit survey for my colleagues to answer. And it's a very simple sort of, what was effective as a part of this session, what worked in terms of giving you new ideas or maybe reinvigorated your imagination going into the fall. And then also the information for a directory. A way for all of us to easily connect with each other and to do exactly what Alex said, make opportunities for us to find each other and tag team and collaborate and keep that freshness for the faculty as well as for the students. The final couple slides I want to show are the ways that you'll be able to stay in contact with this collective. The website that I just mentioned, a fully realized website, will be designed in August so that it's its own standalone environment and we can network with each other. Faculty can continue to inspire us. People like Susan and Lauren and Alex and Hassan and Brett, everyone, it's like romper room. I want to call everyone's names out. Can't possibly do it, but everyone in this space gave amazing ideas, and this is going to be a collective space where those ideas can continue to flow and be available. And I know there are other resources out there. As Alex said, he's a part of 2 or 3 collectives that do some of the same work. Maybe there's a link on our site that will direct you to one of the other organizations. I will probably lean a little bit heavier in some areas towards HBCUs, just because I work at one and we spend a lot of time trying to build our narratives in that respect. And so there's that. There will also be an accompanying ebook/PDF, a living document, something that continues to grow. Again, URLs and resources, notes from all of us. Let's say a faculty member has a bad day at all of this and is like, I just need to communicate what happened today before I go have this tequila. And maybe this is where that narrative, these stories come into play. It's almost kind of what Stacy was saying about documenting this exciting time. It's dire, yeah. It's hard. It is for a lot of people just plain out awful. Many of us have family who have been impacted by this. Some of us have lost family members as a result of this pandemic. But as storytellers, as the keeper of the word, we are the ones who are to document it. And while we are sitting here as teachers, our best teaching is through the doing. And so this living document is about collecting our stories as well, and sharing what this experiment in education is about. And then a follow-up meeting in January. Again, how did it go in the fall? How did you do? Glad to see you again. So happy you made it, type thing. And yeah, and I think that pretty much concludes this conversation for today. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
And I hope you wear your mask, and I hope you stay safe. And I thank you all so much for giving 2 hours of your time today, 2 hours and 2 minutes of your time today. I appreciate just all of your enthusiasm and engagement. Lauren made me laugh a few times. Lauren Cater. Her expressions are hilarious. You should look at her face on occasion. I mean, all of you are just a brilliant,
what a compliment.
We're going to grow this, and we're going to come out on the other side so much better. Have a great day. Thank you all. I'm going to follow up. See you soon.
Thanks so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank
Great
you
job.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you so much.
Wear your mask.
Wear your mask.
Mask. Put it on your face. Be safe.
Yeah, put it on your face. That's a good place.
Yeah, not on your eyes.
Mask
Not
to
here.
go.
Here.
I know,
Right under the nose.
Right.
Best place.
I'm